Since the dawn of time, nations settled their disputes in the conventional warfare style of meeting one another on the battlefield. This conventional style remained prominent up into the 20th century, even into World War I and World War II. World War I, a war that was much like its predecessors in the sense of warfare and tactics, marked the beginning of a change as new styles of weapons were developed and the Soviet Union came into being.
For nearly 4 years, these men will engage in the bitterest fight the world has ever known.
In the beginning, World War I was fought in the conventional warfare style, which gave little regard to the advancements in weaponry. Eventually, the effects of advanced technology and the higher mortality rate drove the soldiers into the trenches. Due to the lack of supplies and poor sanitation within the trenches, many casualties occurred solely of disease and starvation, and the harmful gases created many permanently wounded soldiers. As the photos of the war reached the nation, the U.S. saw the conditions in the trenches with horror and disbelief. However, despite the revulsion, the nation adhered to its policy of neutrality that stemmed from the Monroe Doctrine and even Washington's farewell address. The U.S. remained neutral until the summer of 1917, when the nation entered World War I. World War II, however, was different from most other wars. It was the beginning of the end of conventional warfare. The U.S. successfully detonated its first atomic bomb in the last year of World War II. Quickly, the nation realized the power that it had been given. The nation used this power to its advantage, dropping 2 bombs onto the cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, both located in Japan. Quickly, Stalin issued for the creation of an atomic bomb, willing to offer large sums of government money. In 1949, the Soviet Union successfully detonated its own atomic bomb.
Was successfully tested on the Kazakhstan at an officially built testing site. Physicist Otto Hahn, a 1944 Nobel Prize winner, said the Soviet bomb was good news because it meant the United States could only use their bomb at risk of nuclear war.
The beginning of a new era was here. The detonation forced America to question its own safety and reevaluate its position in global politics, as well as alter the way it conducted warfare. Many Americans began to take precautions.
There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and cover.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you duck and cover.
It would be fear of retaliation and destruction that would keep the U.S. from engaging nations with nuclear weapons directly. Initially, the bombs were known for their explosive power and their ability to vaporize everything close to the center and cause radioactive fallout fires. However, it was soon discovered that cancer, leukemia, infertility, damage to cells, and birth defects are the effects of just one nuclear bomb. Concerns began to mount about the devastating effects that would occur from any detonation, testing, or otherwise. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were just prerequisites to the Soviet militarization and significant buildup of weapons of mass destruction that quickly occurred. The United States, fearing Soviet domination, responded by establishing NATO and passing NSC 68 in Congress in order to protect itself and its allies from communist threat. By creating a worldwide military organization as well as increasing military spending within the U.S. And so began U.S. modern warfare through proxy wars, espionage, and focus on making peace, due to not only the threat posed to the U.S. but to the whole world. On June 25, 1950, the Soviet-backed National People's Army of North Korea charged down past the 31st parallel with the intent of taking over the southern half of Korea in the name of communism, marking the beginning of the Korean War. For the first time in history, the U.S. broke its policy of isolation through the Monroe Doctrine by interfering in another country. The U.S. and her citizens saw the conflict as a war against communism itself. Though the U.S. worked furiously for some sort of armistice between North and South Korea, Truman admitted considering using atomic weaponry. However, he was stopped when the British Prime Minister expressed the world's opposition. From the very beginning, no one was sure whether atomic weaponry would serve its purpose as a decisive weapon against peasant armies. This policy of proxy wars between the U.S. and the USSR became frequent as advancements in nuclear weaponry were made. 8 years later, the U.S. turned to using espionage in an attempt to rid its neighbor, Cuba, of communism. John F. Kennedy, America's president at the time, then allowed for several CIA-run assassination missions and undercover attempts to remove the foreign threat. The Soviet Union sought to protect its fellow communist country and sent missiles over to the island. On the brink of war, both leaders acknowledged that something must be done to defuse the situation. The Soviet Premier, Khrushchev, publicly agreed to remove the missiles if the U.S. agreed not to invade Cuba. With this pattern of using policies to prevent any possible nuclear conflict established, several new acts and negotiations followed suit. Today, the U.S. is still continuing its policy of interfering in nations that may pose a nuclear threat. Hopefully, the U.S. will eventually be able to settle global issues without the need of military intervention.